Welcome back, troops. Let's tab 59. Hearing loss. Pardon? I hear you all shouting at the camera, at the screens. So, big thing amongst veterans. I actually suffer myself. I may have mentioned it. You might have heard me. All the jokes, I know. But if you're a certain vintage, what I mean by that is, if you served back in maybe the 60s, 70s, even the 80s to a degree, you might remember when you go to join up, your hearing test, your entry medical into the armed forces, certainly in the UK. And I joined up in the mid-70s, and my first medical was done, initial medical for enlistment, was done at the Army Careers Office, Roper Road in Canterbury. Went upstairs, did all the paperwork downstairs, went upstairs, saw a doctor, and he gives you a bit of a once over, usual stuff. When it got to the hearing test, he stood me in the corner. He went, stand over there, son, face the wall. Done a lot of that when I was at school, actually, standing in the corner facing the wall. That's another story. So, stood in the corner, faced the wall. He was in the opposite corner of the room, and he just went, eggs and bacon. I went, what? And he said it again, and I said, yeah, repeated it back. And that was the hearing test. That was the entry hearing test. I don't believe I had another one. Might have done at Sutton Coldfield, which was a recruit selection centre. Might have had one there. But that was it. Obviously, later on, when you have your pull-ins, they started to introduce this system where you sat in a little booth. You put this headset on, you had a little button you could press. They shut in this little box, the little window, and some gadget sat outside, some RMC corporal or whatever sat outside, and they would send little signals through the headset into your ear. They start off really low pitch or whatever, and different pitches in each ear. And every time you heard it, you press the old button. And that was your hearing test. And you had that yearly with your pull-ins. So, when it come to ear defence, when I joined up in the 70s, and please let me know in the comments what happened before that maybe. Maybe in the 60s, Armed Forces personnel in the UK, maybe you guys didn't get any hearing protection on the rifle ranges and such. I don't know. But we got issued in basic training with our 1157 these little hard pink plastic plugs. And I think there was various sizes of them. I think you got sized. I don't know how it worked with it, small, medium, large, I don't know. I can't remember. But you got issued one set of these little hard plastic ear defenders in a little pot. And that's what you stick in your lugs when you're on the rifle range, etc. And that's all we had. We never had the big Amplivox type ear defenders that you see now. These little hard plastic things, pink plastic things. And they were awful, if I'm honest. I remember in basic training, we went down to Lark Hill, when I was in the artillery, do our gunnery training. And that's all we had, and we was firing 105mm pack howitzers. Artillery guns. I mean, it's not the biggest gun in the world, is it, a 105? But let me tell you, anyone that's sat there, when it goes off, it's quite loud. And that's all we had. And you couldn't stand there and put your fingers over your ears or in your ears, because in training anyway on the guns, you had to sort of, if you was, depending which part of the gun team you was on, if you was kneeling with an ammunition number or so, you knelt at a 10, you braced up when the gun fired. So that's all we had. And I remember somebody going sick once on sick parade because they'd got one of these, they'd pushed it in too far, these little hard plastic pink earplugs, pushed it right in his lug, and he had to go sick, and the quack had to get it out with a pair of pliers or something, a pair of tweezers. Awful things, really minging. And of course, every time you were on the ranges, when you got your range safety brief before you were on, you had to show your ear defence, how hold up your earplugs. And that's what you had. Later on, I think it might have been maybe in the 80s, midway through the 80s, something like that. I can't remember exactly. They did away with those, and you got issued these little yellow foam plugs, a little packet, and they were pretty much disposable. You could bin them. There's loads of them knocking about, but you rolled it up into a little ball, or not in a ball, but you squeezed it between your thumb and finger and put it in your ear, and it sort of expanded inside your wrist. It's one size fits all, and that's what you had. And then later on, and I can't remember when it was, we all started to get issued. Now I'm thinking this must have been in the 90s sometime, late 90s maybe, can't remember, but they actually did issue us with proper green Amplivox ear defenders. Of course, they were really awkward because I think the helmets we had at the time, the combat helmet, it didn't really fit underneath that. You got those on, and I mean, doing your APWT as it was then, your annual personal weapons test on the ranges, there'd be an NBC phase, CBRN phase, where you'd be in your NBC kit, or certainly you'd don your respirator, and then you'd have your respirator on with your NBC hood up maybe, and then you'd have to put your ear defenders on and your helmet, and then try and hit a target of 300 metres, all that lot on. Not easy. I think now it's a lot better. Obviously they've got better systems, but that's basically what we had. And of course, even when we did get issued ear defence, the old pink plastic ones or the little yellow ones, we never used them on exercise. When we was training with blanks, now I know blanks ammunition is not as loud as firing live rounds, but of course also on exercise you had some battle noise simulators going off. Hi there. So you'd have battle noise simulators, or Thunder Flash. We had Thunder Flash initially and went over to battle noise simulator, didn't it? Another bat sims going off on exercise, but we never had to, not back in the day anyway, you never had to wear ear defence for that. So consequently, I think a lot of veterans that served around those times when the ear defence was very basic and not always used, certainly not on exercise, a lot of them are suffering from tinnitus and hearing loss. And of course, out in Iraq and Afghanistan, certainly the early parts, again, you know, guys weren't wearing ear defence. Not when I saw it, not what I saw anyway. Of course, there's a lot of contacts out there, a lot of people not wearing ear defence, a lot of loud noises going off. But not just that side of it, not just firing weapon systems. I mean, guys in the REME, the Royal Engineers, obviously artillery on artillery pieces. I know the drone troops back in the day when I was with 9-4 locating, the drone troops, the guys down on the launchers, they did get issued Amplivox. They were normally bright white ones, I think. Some blokes painted them green. But they did get Amplivox for that. So maybe people on the guns, maybe you had Amplivox after basic training, but like I say, certainly in basic training we didn't have them. I also remember seeing somebody driving, it wasn't a 4-tonner, it was something bigger than that, maybe a 10-ton knocker or something like that. They were wearing ear defence while they were driving it. And if you veterans, real old veterans out there who served out in BOR, if you remember the displaced persons that we employed, so after the Second World War, there's a lot of displaced persons. I think they're Polish, maybe, Eastern Europeans. They were displaced after the war. And the military employed a lot of them. We called them mojos because they used to wear a sort of army kit. They had a berry with a sort of round brass coloured cap badge, like a coin. And I think it had MO something on it. But we called them mojos, we nicknamed them mojos. Now I remember seeing those guys, done a lot of driving. So anyone out there from the old Royal Corps of Transport, you might remember having them with you out in Germany. A lot of them were drivers. And they would wear Amplivox. I remember seeing them driving, actually, yeah, they were driving 4-tonners with Amplivox on, MKs and that, MK Bedfords and RL Bedfords. And I thought, why have they got them? We ain't got nothing. We should drive it with nothing. So it wasn't just when you're firing your weapon systems, like I say, Royal Engineers, REME, and other trades, artillery, they could get hearing loss, and they didn't have a lot of hearing protection either. Now, I was fine with my hearing. I was fine right up until 2004, when I got caught in that rocket blast and injured, and I lost a lot of hearing, 80% in the right ear and 20% in the left ear. The ringing, I think I mentioned it before in a video, I had a lot of ringing in the ears after the explosion, obviously, and I was told that would go away. It sort of did go away, but the hearing loss was there. When I had my first hearing test, because I think I moaned about it a bit, well, I went for Pulliams, that's right, I went for Pulliams. And they put the, I remember, it was at Shorncliffe. And we'd got the Royal Gurkha Rifles with us. And the med centre was in their camp at Sir John Moore Barracks. I was at Risborough Barracks. So I had to go up there for my Pulliams. So I'd have been about 45, 46 years old, something like that. Anyway, I goes up to the med centre for my Pulliams. Nurse done her bit. And they said, right, hearing test, in the booth. Stuck me in this little booth, like I say, with a little window. So a little Gurkha lad, little Lance Corporal from the Gurkhas. Sat me in there, shut the door, put the headset on, got the little button in my hand ready to press it. And I'm sat there waiting. And after a couple of minutes, this Gurkha opened the door. He said, "Sir, we've started." I said, "Well, turn it up then. I can't hear nothing." So I knew I had a problem. Then after that, they'd done all sorts of tests. I ended up going down to Gosport, the Royal Navy place down there, and seeing a specialist and having different types of hearing tests done. One where they didn't put the headset on you. They put like this metal brackets thing that went behind your ears, where they send vibrations through. Don't know what that did. I just had to sit there while they done it. And then another one, I went down right before I got out the army, went down there again. They put me in this darkened room and they put the headset on me. And it was a civilian. What do you call someone that does hearing? I can't remember. Not an optician, that's eyes. There's a name for people. Orologists, I don't know. Anyway, she was one of them. She sticks the headset on. She says, "Well, what's going to happen?" She said, "You're going to hear a conversation. It's American voices. And what we'll do is we'll gradually increase the background noise in this conversation so that it gets more and more dense in the background. And you've got to repeat after each session what the phrase that was said to you." Well, I had no chance. I think eventually I got one of them. But that's my problem. When I'm out anywhere, I'm not too bad. But if I'm in a bar or somewhere there's a lot of background noise, I have a lot of trouble picking out a conversation with someone. It's really difficult. And obviously I've got the telly up a lot louder than most people do. So mine was identified, and a mate of mine at the time said to me, "You want to put a claim in for that?" And I did put a claim in through the Veterans Agency, and I had to go and have this medical hearing test with the army. And then they sent me down to Bupa, went to a Bupa hospital in Leatherhead, I believe it was. Went in there, had a hearing test with them. And then I went to another one, BMI, somewhere like another private hospital, and they did a hearing test. And the results from those three, the military, Bupa and BMI, they put that together and come to a decision and said, right, here's a one-off payment, and they give me $7,000, a $7,000 payout. Not enough for a war pension, because I got told on discharge that to receive a war pension for the injury to my neck and the hearing loss, I'd have to be 21% disabled. And I was only 19% disabled. So I didn't get a war pension. But it's an interesting thing. There's a lot of veterans suffering with hearing loss, and thought it was quite a good subject to chat about. And I thought also, if there's anyone out there that's suffering from hearing loss from military service and you've not received any form of compensation, then it's never too late. There's plenty of places online. I think if you just put in Veterans Agency and look through them, you can apply through them. The British Legion will give you guidance as well, and lots of other veterans charities you can get advice from. Maybe better than going through some of these no win, no fee business, you know, I don't know. You want to start paying out some of your compensation to them for getting you a hearing claim. You want to do it yourself. So yeah, hearing loss. Let me know your thoughts on that. Anyone suffering from tinnitus as well? That's another one. I don't get that, I don't think. I just get really muffled. And I can't have hearing aids. That's the other thing. When I left the army, I had my discharge medical, and they could see my history of my hearing loss, because I come out at 55, so I had about 10 years in service with hearing loss. They said to me, apparently from these results down at Gosport, that there was no point in giving me hearing aids, because it wouldn't, there's nothing on the other end inside there, there's not a lot in there anyway, but there's nothing inside there that's going to receive the amplified signal from hearing aids. So there you go. Something to think about. Listen into. Shouldn't joke about it, but I've sort of got used to it now. I've got used to living with the hearing loss. And so of course it's also selective, isn't it? You know, Trace around tells me to do something, I can ignore it. Try and get away with that. Selective hearing loss. She's not having none of that though. She's got wise to it. So yes, a little bit about hearing loss. Let me know your thoughts. If you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider it. Please consider supporting this channel. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it. Stay safe, everybody, until the next time, and it won't be long. Remember, less tab. Pardon?